Human habitation in Spain dates back hundreds of thousands of years. Over time, prehistoric peoples developed into Neolithic farming communities and eventually the unique Bronze Age cultures of Iberia. By the Iron Age in the first millennium BCE, the region was a patchwork of tribes and trading colonies. Indigenous groups included the Iberians along the Mediterranean coast, Celtic peoples inland and in the northwest, the Lusitanians in the west, and the Tartessians in the southwest. Meanwhile, seafaring civilizations from the eastern Mediterranean, particularly the Phoenicians, established coastal settlements like Gator, modern Cadiz, as early as the 9th century BCE. Greek colonists arrived later, founding cities such as Emporion and Catalonia during the 7th and 6th centuries BCE. By the 5th century BCE, Carthage, successor to Phoenician power, expanded its control over southern Iberia, founding cities like Carthago Nova, modern Cartagena. In the 3rd century BCE, Iberia became the focus of a major geopolitical conflict, the Second Punic War, 218 to 201 BCE. Hannibal famously led his army, including war elephants, from Spain across the Alps to attack Rome. Despite early Carthaginian successes, Rome eventually won the war and expelled Carthage from Iberia by 206 BCE. Over the next 2 centuries, Rome systematically conquered the peninsula, meeting fierce resistance, especially from Celtic tribes. The final holdouts were subdued in 19 BCE under Emperor Augustus during the Cantabrian Wars. With the conquest complete, the Romans established the province of Hispania. Under Roman rule, cities like Tarraco, Tarragona, Emerita Augusta, Merida, and Caesar Augusta, Zaragoza, flourished. The region's infrastructure, roads, aqueducts, theaters, advanced significantly. Hispania became economically vital, exporting grain, olive oil, wine, and metals. Latin language and Roman culture spread widely, and the local population gradually became Romanized. Hispania also produced some of Rome's greatest minds, including the philosophers Seneca and Lucan, the poet Martial, and emperors Trajan and Hadrian. Christianity began spreading in the region by the 1st century CE and became dominant by the late Roman period. As the Western Roman Empire crumbled in the early 5th century CE, several Germanic tribes invaded Iberia. The Suebi established a kingdom in Galicia, while the Vandals controlled southern regions. Around 415 CE, the Visigoths entered the scene, eventually unifying most of the peninsula. They expelled rival tribes, and even the remaining Byzantine presence in the southeast. The Visigothic kingdom, centered in Toledo, preserved much of Roman law and culture and ruled Iberia for over 2 centuries. This continuity ended abruptly in 711 CE when Muslim forces, Arab and Berber armies from North Africa, invaded Iberia, led by Tariq ibn Ziyad. Taking advantage of internal Visigothic strife, they defeated King Roderick at the Battle of Guadalete and rapidly conquered most of the peninsula. Only the mountainous north resisted, with a Christian kingdom of Asturias emerged. The rest of Iberia became known as Al-Andalus under Islamic rule. Initially a province of the Umayyad Caliphate, it later became the independent Emirate of Córdoba in 756, and then the Caliphate of Córdoba in 929 under Abd al-Rahman III. Muslim Spain entered a golden age of scientific, artistic, and intellectual flourishing. Cities like Córdoba became global centers of learning, with libraries, universities, and a high degree of religious tolerance. Christians and Jews were allowed to practice their faiths in return for tax payments. Philosophers like Averroes and Maimonides emerged during this vibrant era. Al-Andalus introduced new crops, irrigation methods, and luxury industries like silk and steel production. Architectural marvels, such as the Great Mosque of Córdoba and the Alhambra in Granada, date from this period. The rise and fall of Islamic and Imperial Spain. For centuries, the frontier between Islamic and Christian Spain shifted constantly, with power rising and falling on both sides. Warriors like El Cid took advantage of the chaos to establish their own territories. By the 13th century, northern Christian kingdoms, Leon, Castile, Navarre, Aragon, and Portugal, united to push southward in the long conflict known as the Reconquista. In response, Muslim Taifa rulers sought help from North African Berber dynasties. The Almoravids, and later the Almohads, crossed from Morocco to aid Muslim defenses. But the tide turned decisively in 1212 at the Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa, where a coalition of Christian forces defeated the Almohads, leading to the swift collapse of most of Muslim Spain. By 1250, only the Emirate of Granada in the south remained, surviving by paying tribute to Castile and maneuvering diplomatically. Meanwhile, Christian kingdoms steadily consolidated. By 1469, the marriage of Queen Isabella I of Castile and King Ferdinand II of Aragon united their crowns, laying the foundation for a unified Spain. In 1492, their combined forces captured Granada, ending nearly 800 years of Islamic rule in Iberia. Columbus's landing in the Bahamas opened the door to Spain's conquest of the Americas, including the Aztec and Inca empires. Silver and gold from Mexico and Peru enriched Spain and fueled the rise of one of history's greatest empires, stretching across the Americas, the Philippines, and parts of Africa and Europe. In 1516, Charles I inherited the Spanish throne and later became Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. He ruled over vast lands in Europe and the Americas, an empire so large that it was said the sun never set on it. His son, Philip II, centralized Spanish power and made Madrid the capital in 1561. Spain, now the leading Catholic power, invested heavily in defending the faith amid the Protestant Reformation. It fought in the Dutch Revolt and faced defeat during the failed Spanish Armada campaign against England in 1588. Spain also clashed with the Ottoman Empire, scoring a key victory at the Battle of Lepanto in 1571. In 1580, Philip II inherited the Portuguese crown, forming the Iberian Union. Spain reached the peak of its golden age, culturally and imperially. Artists like El Greco and Velázquez, writers like Cervantes, and grand architectural projects like El Escorial flourished, supported by imperial wealth. The modern history of Spain, from Bourbon reforms to democracy. After the War of Spanish Succession, competing claims to the Spanish throne led to a brutal conflict between the French Bourbon dynasty and the Austrian Habsburgs. The Treaty of Utrecht in 1714 ended the war, recognizing Philip V, the Bourbon candidate, as King of Spain. However, Spain was forced to cede territories, including Gibraltar and Minorca, to Britain. Under Bourbon rule, Spain embarked on a path of reform and centralization. Philip V and his successors adopted French-style absolutist policies, aiming to modernize the administration and economy. In the mid-18th century, King Charles III introduced Enlightenment-inspired reforms, expanding science, academia, infrastructure, and agriculture. These Bourbon reforms helped revitalize Spain and its colonies, though the country never fully regained its former dominance. The French Revolution and Napoleon's rise soon rocked Europe. Initially allied with France, Spain's fortunes changed in 1808 when Napoleon seized the Spanish throne and placed his brother Joseph Bonaparte in power. On May 2, 1808, the people of Madrid rebelled, sparking the Peninsular War. Spanish regulars, guerrillas, and British forces led by the Duke of Wellington fought back. After years of brutal conflict, the French were expelled in 1814. As Spain fought for its freedom, colonies in the Americas launched their own independence movements. By 1825, nearly all of Spanish America, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Argentina, and more, had gained independence. Spain was left with only a few overseas possessions, a blow to both its economy and global standing. A short-lived political experiment followed. Italian Amadeo I became king in 1870, but abdicated in 1873, paving the way for the First Spanish Republic. Plagued by internal strife and Carlist violence, it collapsed quickly. In 1875, the Bourbon monarchy was restored with Alfonso XII. A new constitution and a system of alternating liberal and conservative governments brought a measure of stability. That stability, ended in 1898 with the Spanish-American War. Spain lost its last major colonies, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines, signaling the collapse of its empire. Turning its focus to Africa, Spain established a colonial presence in Morocco. But military setbacks and unrest culminated in a 1923 coup by General Miguel Primo de Rivera. Backed by King Alfonso XIII, he ruled as a dictator until 1930. The dictatorship's fall led to the Second Spanish Republic in 1931. Sweeping reforms were introduced: women's suffrage, secular education, land redistribution, and curbs on the church and military. Conservative backlash grew, and in 1936, a military coup led by Francisco Franco sparked the Spanish Civil War. The brutal conflict pitted nationalists, monarchists, fascists, and clergy against Republicans, liberals, communists, and anarchists. Nazi Germany and fascist Italy supported Franco. The Soviet Union and international volunteers supported the Republic. After years of bloodshed, Franco's forces captured Madrid in 1939, establishing a dictatorship. Economic reforms in the 1950s and 60s triggered the Spanish miracle: rapid industrialization, tourism, and rising living standards. However, political repression persisted. Franco, childless and aging, named Prince Juan Carlos as successor, expecting the monarchy would continue his authoritarian legacy. But upon Franco's death in 1975, Juan Carlos surprised the world by guiding Spain toward democracy. He appointed Adolfo Suarez as prime minister, legalized political parties, and oversaw free elections. The 1978 Constitution established a parliamentary monarchy and recognized regional autonomy. Spain joined NATO in 1982 and the European Economic Community in 1986, cementing its place in the modern Western world. The 1992 Barcelona Olympics symbolized a revitalized Spain. Yet the 2008 global financial crisis brought economic turmoil. Despite these setbacks, Spain has rebuilt and remains a vibrant democracy, still confronting internal debates such as Catalan independence and the monarchy's future. Spain today stands as a testament to resilience, emerging from centuries of war, empire, and dictatorship into a stable democratic nation.